Someone Better by I_am_Ellie on AO3. Episode 24, Chapter 26. Never Be the Same. It was 2 weeks and a lot of work later that Hizashi finally started putting more hours into his radio show. He created more playlists and signed more deals and got permission for more artists to play more songs and even started playing a little of the side piece for his radio show. Something he was planning on calling Hands Up, wherever he could have his little talks every few songs and have an hour or so in the morning, where he could just interact with listeners. Shouta was proud of him. He was expanding on something he loved. Everything he had tirelessly built and cultivated, hours upon hours spent keeping that radio up and running so it could be where it is now. It was on the early Saturday morning in late November that his first real, hour-long special officially began. Izuku was playing with action figures on the living room floor, while Akio and Nakatana moved about through the house, and Shouta nursed a cup of coffee, just trying to enjoy the relatively peace and quiet. He had recently started doing small patrols every night again, and he had a particularly messy one the night before. He was exhausted. There was a small radio on the kitchen counter that Nemuri had bought for him as a late birthday present. The music from Hizashi floated throughout the house, and although Shouta doesn't necessarily care for pop music, he thought he liked the alternative rock and more. He could certainly see the appeal. Izuku seemed to like it just fine, and he always got so excited knowing that Hizashi was picking the songs, so he tended to keep it playing. The music, thrumming throughout the radio's small speakers, faded away, and it was replaced by an overly joy and exaggerated voice, the voice Hizashi used when he was going out as present mic. That was One More Night by Lemon Park. Hope you all enjoyed that, listeners. And for now, Hands Up Radio, my new radio segment where I will be talking to, drumroll please, you guys. So go ahead and send a call down to the station if you're listening, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Hizashi started chatting about in his radio show and how he created it and came up with the name. With a small click, a caller connected. Izuku had abandoned his action figures and was sitting in front of the kitchen counter with the radio sitting on, staring up at it and listening with rapt attention. Hello, listener! Hizashi crowded. There were small shuffles from the other end of the line, followed by a quiet laugh. What can I do for you today? Any questions? Yes, the boy said. It sounded like a girl, maybe 14 at most. Nervous, her voice was shaking, just a little. I'm a big fan of your show, and you as a hero in general. There was a nervous laughter from the other end of the call. Well, I'm glad to hear it, Hizashi cried happily. And for question? I have more than one. Is that okay? Well, there aren't any calls backed up, so sure, go right ahead, listener. Awesome, the girl exclaimed. What's the secret to your quirk? What gear do you use to manage it? That's a great question, listener, Hizashi said, and continued to jabber on about his directional speakers and his protective hairwear to keep his own eardrums from bursting, which was not a pleasant experience. This conversation continued on, but there was another call backed up on the line before long. One more question, listener, but then we gotta move on, Hizashi warned the girl. Okay, the girl said. What's your opinion on the political side of quirks? And heroes in general? Shouta could almost see Hisashi's godsmack expression. The girl had been asking fairly tame, common questions. Shouta certainly hadn't expected politics to come up. Well, I certainly can't say anything positive nor negative about my fellow heroes, Hizashi chattered on. But, as for politics, the only thing I could think of telling you is that I believe anyone can be a hero. There is not much to it. If you got a good heart and a good head on your shoulder, you can be a hero. That goes for anyone. It didn't go unnoticed by Shouta that Hizashi had sidestepped certain political aspects of the conversation. Hizashi was getting good at this. There was quiet from the other line. Anyone? The voice of the girl said tentatively. Anyone, Hizashi confirmed. Shouta could feel the warmth in his voice. I say that to my kid all the time, as a matter of fact. Shouta felt like hitting his head on a table. Apparently he wasn't as good as that as Shouta had thought. After Hisashi's hand-up segment was complete, it didn't take long for Shota's phone to ring with an unknown number. Shouta heaved a put-up sign before answering it. It probably Hizashi or someone from the radio, or from the agency demanding to know why he hadn't told them he had a child, or politely order him to come in on the weekend and do paperwork. Both were quite likely. Eraser! A laughing voice piped up from the other side of the phone, and Shota's head really did hit the table that time. The one and only, Emmy confirmed. Hey, why didn't you tell me you had a kid, Eraser? Don't think that's something an old classmate ought to know? I really don't see how that's any of your business, Emmy. Oh, come on, handsome. Don't be like that. Shouta hung up the phone. She dialed back a moment later. He reluctantly answered, mostly because he knew she'd ring his phone off the hooks if he didn't. What do you want, Emmy? I'm just checking in on an old pal, Eraser. Emmy cried, sounding mock outraged. Have I committed some heinous crime? Probably. Emmy crackled. I do so love your ready retorts, she yelled. You know that's part of the reason why you and me will work so well together. I'm gay. We'll be a real power couple, you and me. I can see the headlines now. Miss Joke and Eraserhead, married in the summer. Chapel. I'm also engaged. And really, there's no harm to be done. I'd have thought you've gotten over this little crush by now, Emmy. Shouta said, and he could feel his ears turning slightly red. He wasn't attracted to Emmy, not in the least. Not only because she'd been like a younger sister to him in school, but also because of more obvious reasons. That didn't mean she didn't embarrass him. Shouta would go as far as to assume that that was her quirk, and that he had not seen her actual quirk in action. Yeah, I did a long time ago, Emmy reassured him. You're just so fun to tease. Now, why is it I'm only just now finding that my friend is engaged to be married and has a kid? It's a long story. I've got time. It's a story I don't want to tell. Oh, come on, Eraser. I said no, Emmy. Fine, Emmy said, drawing out the word. Talking to this woman was utterly exhausting. Will you at least tell me about the kid? What's he like? Is he as deadpan and exhausted as you? Emmy cracked at her own joke. Shouta rolled his eyes. Izuku was on the floor. Had moved back to play with his action figures now. That Hizashi wasn't talking on the radio anymore. Though Shouta could tell he was still keeping an ear out on the conversation. He wasn't very good at eavesdropping. Emmy was never going to let this go. No, not really, Shouta admitted. He's interesting. Wow, you get a kid and the only thing you could say about him is he's interesting? Shouta scowled. What are you, a reporter? I'm just messing with you, Eraser, Emmy replied cheerfully. Shouta was distinctively reminded of why she and Hizashi would have been so close in UA, even though Emmy had been 2 years below them. They both had the same electric personality. Honestly, you calling the kid interesting might be as well of a stamp of approval. Honestly, you calling the kid interesting might as well be the stamp of approval. I don't know what else to say. Shouta defended himself weakly. I know. Emmy reassured him. Really though, what's the kid like? Is he cute? Is he nice? Is he one of those kids who wet the bed every night because he's too lazy to get up? Emmy snickered. He is certainly nice, Shouta said. More than nice. He's cute for a child, I guess. No, he does not wet the bed. He's just a normal child. See, you already proved to me that he's not a normal kid, Emmy retorted. You said he was cute. Children are not cute. Children are heathens. Whatever you say, Emmy, Shouta said warily. I would ask how you've been since you graduated UA, but I feel like if I do, I'll be listening to you talk all day. I'll keep it short and sweet then, Emmy cried. and Shouta again felt the urge to hit his head on the table because, of course. I've been doing rather well, if I do say so myself. Oh? Shouta prompted, already feeling a headache building up behind his eyes. He was gonna be here for a while. Yup, Emmy cried happily, popping the pea. Sometimes she was more difficult to deal with than a sugar-high Izuku. I finally found an agency to take me, and I'm making quite a name for myself. I even had a little girl I saved tell me I was her favorite hero. Well, I'm glad you finally got hired, Shouta stated, trying to find some way to swiftly end the conversation. It wasn't going well. I know, you thought it would be a better idea to just ditch agencies altogether. It's what I would have done, Shouta admitted, had I not started dating Hizashi. He had been seriously considering going out on his own, being his own agency, an underground hero who didn't belong to anyone. It had been appealing, but those kind of heroes didn't make money. And when he and Hizashi had decided to move in together after UA in their own apartment, that was something they needed, and thus he was hired by Shoei. I just don't think underground life suits me, M joked. I can see why. Shouta responded. It's my entire persona, Shouta, and I do want to be at least somewhat known by the public. Everyone had different motivations for being a hero. Shouta because it had been his dream, the only thing he's ever thought about as a child. Hizashi because he wanted to put people at ease and make them feel happy and safe. Emmy just appreciated the glory that came with the job. And then there was nothing wrong with that. Shouta reminded himself. There wasn't. I'm aware, Shouta said. It's your career, not mine. Don't worry about my opinions. I never do, Emmy replied, cheekily. There was a loud bang from somewhere in the house, followed by a small noise of pain. When he glanced at where Izuku had been sitting, he wasn't there. I have to go, he said hurriedly into the phone, before ending the call and tossing it aside onto the table. The noise sounded like it had come from Izuku's room. Why? I wanted to spend time with the cats. Izuku wailed through his tears, clutching his knee. There was a long, raw strip of carpet burn on it, but there didn't seem to be anything else wrong with the child. The room, however. Izuku. Why? The net that had been pinning up against the wall, that had previously held out his stuffed toys and action figures, had been torn straight out of it, toys scattered onto the floor. There were small white jagged marks marking the paint now. Taka and Akio were off to the side, looking very disgruntled. The larger of the two cats glared at the small child. The black cat barked indignantly. The cats were in the toy net, and I wanted to cuddle with the cat, so I climbed into the net and... Izuku let out a small whimper, covering his carpet burn with two hands. Like that would help. Maybe the cold air was hurting it. Come on, child, Shouta said. The boy didn't move. Child, we have to go to the bathroom so we can clean your cut. No! Izuku wailed. It'll hurt if I move. Shouta grimaced. He'd have to move the child if he wanted to clean the cut. He couldn't risk making a mess doing it here. Shouta tried not to sigh as he walked towards the child, awkwardly bracing one arm under his neck and the other under his knee as he picked him up. At least the child wasn't heavy. He set the child down onto the sink counter, taking peroxide, gauze. The area was far too big for bandages, and a cup out of the cabinet. Then he grabbed a rag out of the drawer and set it aside. Put your knee over the sink, Shouta said. Izuku did, still crying and looking confused. Shouta filled the cup with water. What are you gonna do? Izuku asked, looking wary. I'm gonna pour some water over the cut, Shouta exclaimed. He continued before Izuku could protest. I have to get the dirt and fibers out of it. It might feel weird, and it might burn a little, but that's all. Izuku nodded, stiffly, slightly, and Shouta slowly poured water over the hurt area. It had been bleeding, just a little, but that had long since stopped, and all the blood was rising down the drain. After he was done, Shouta patted it dry with the rag. What now? Izuku asked. I'm gonna put some of the peroxide on it, Shouta said. No! Izuku cried, vehemently. That'll really hurt. No! No! Child, Shouta said. This is peroxide, not rubbing alcohol. rubbing alcohol is what hurts. And I have to. Why? Izuku asked, and there were fresh tears pooling in his eyes. Here's how peroxide works. Shouta said. I pour it on a cut. It'll start bubbling on the cut. That means it's cleaning it better than any of the water did. If I don't clean it, your wound could get infected. Even though it's small, if it gets infected, a lot of bad things can happen. And that would hurt a lot more than the peroxide. Okay? What'll happen? Izuku asked, sniffling. He looked a bit calmer now. Maybe he just wanted to know the purpose behind what he did. Maybe that was how Shouta got the child to calm down. Do you remember when we had to get your appendix removed? Izuku nodded. Your appendix was infected, and because of that there was no way for them to fix it without taking it out. And because the infection had nowhere to go, you had to have surgery. They waited too long and your appendix burst. They had to put a tube to drain the access and the infection so it could heal. But that was my tummy, not my knee. You're right, Shouta admitted. But if this infection, a lot of bad things could happen still. You could get Implied or blood inflection, or it could make more abscess under your skin, and then the doctors will have to cut up with a scalpel to get rid of it. Or you could get narcissus, fishies, and that will really hurt. The last one might have been a bit dramatic, but I got the point across. And peroxide doesn't hurt at all. Shouta added for good measure. Izuku slowly nodded, and Shouta grabbed a cotton ball from the cabinet and wet it with the peroxide, swiping it over the cut before adding a little knob screen. Then he wrapped up the knee in gauze and helped him down from the counter. This is the worst thing ever. Izuku laminated. At least he wasn't crying. Better than the road rash? Shouta rebutted. What's a road rash? Izuku asked. Nothing. Go clean up your toys and apologize to the cats. Okay, so I want to talk about some small things. So, first of all, I find Emmy, I kind of forgot that she appeared in this. I'm gonna be honest with you, I kind of forgot. I find Emmy just calling up like, you have a child. And one of my favorite lines happened here. The whole, what's it called? The whole, Emmy being like, oh my god, we're such a power couple. And Shouta being like, I'm gay. It'll be all over the headlines. Eraserhead and Miss Joe get married. I'm engaged. I love that. I love it so much. It is just chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Honestly. It is one of the best lines, and I've been, like, kind of, you know, I kind of forgot that Emmy appeared, and I kind of forgot about the line, and I can't believe I forgot about that line. Honestly to God, I think I've mistaken this for being a part of another fanfiction, if I'm being honest. Also, do not worry, we still have one more episode of chapter 26 because it's still not over, it's still not done. Breaking it up to parts, woo woo. But as I said, breaking this into parts and stuff like that. But as I was saying, I'm blacking out. I'm sorry. Ooh, what was I gonna say? Fuck. Okay, so as I was saying, I can't believe I forgot about that line. It's so hilarious. I love it so much. I hope you guys loved it as much as I love it. I love that little sign of dialogue. It really tells you their dynamic. I'm being honest. It really does. Mike being, like, fucking accidentally calling out the fact that he has a child. I bet you most of his audience are like, oh, if he has a child, he most likely has either a wife or a girlfriend. And it doesn't cross their mind of, oh, this could be a boyfriend or a husband or a fiance that is male, right? It doesn't come into their mind. They immediately think female, right? Because they probably think it's a biological child too. And technically, Hizashi isn't technically legally Izuku's child, but I'm pretty sure we all could beg to differ on that one. I think we all agree that Hizashi is Izuku's father. I don't care if Izuku calls them unkies. I wonder at one point he's gonna stop calling that. I don't think it happens in the fanfiction, but, like, I wonder later down the line, like, you know, pretend past what happens in this fanfic, if Izuku does end up calling them unkies, even, you know, when he's, like, 14 or something. Because, like, after a while of, you know, being with them, I'm like, hold up. You get kind of like my dad's. Because if we're being honest, Izuku lost his mom at what, 5? 6? That is young as fuck, first of all. I don't remember shit from when I was 5 or 6. That might be the trauma speaking, but I don't remember that, all right? I vaguely remember bits and pieces, right? But let's say if I lost my mom or my dad at that point, I would not recognize them as, like, my parents. I'd be like, yeah, those are the people who gave life to me, but, like, they're not my parents, you know? Like, I don't know, it's like, the people who take care of me are my parents. Those are the people that I consider my dad and dad, or mom and mom, or mom and dad, or just dad, or just mom. Right, I would consider the people who are currently taking care of me as my parents, but that's just me. I don't know about you guys. What do you guys think? If you were to have lost your parents at the age of 5, right? One parent died and then the other parent went away, or if you only have one parent, or even if you don't have one parent, or you only have like grandparents or a guardian that takes care of you. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, you had both a mom and a dad who were present throughout your life till you were 5. Let's bump it up 6, right? Till you were 6. Your dad went away and never came back, and your mom is no longer in the picture, right? Died. And your dad signed off all the rights. And now you're with with another pair of guardians, right? Who are family, right? Legally family, right? So either uncles, aunts, grandparents, whatever. Point taken is, if you're 15, like 10 years down, right? 15, 16, would you still consider them grandparents, uncles, aunts? Or would you at that point consider them your parents? Because at that point, I would consider them my parents. I don't know. I think it's a whole of, like, depending on who we're talking about, because I feel like everybody would interpret it differently and everybody would do it differently. I personally like the idea that later down the road, Izuku stopped calling them unkies, and at one point it's just like, you guys are kind of like my dads, right? Which would be super cute. Honestly, that would be so cute. I want that. I need that. You know, ignore my weird noises. I don't know what I am. I'm weird is what I am. But it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be a little non-normal. Normal is a social construct. Fuck social constructs. I once had to do a project where I had to do an experiment where I broke a social norm / social rule, right? Social norms or social rules would be like walking forward. That one's one of those biggest ones, but social norms or social rules are unspoken rules. So for example, this one might be a little spoken, but in the library, you are to stay quiet, right? It's kind of spoken because some people do speak it, but, or another one, you don't just out of nowhere in the middle of the park, like, not a park, but like in the middle of a lecture, take out, what's it called? Your little portable, grill, and start cooking a whole dinner, right? That is a rule. It's an unspoken rule because, like, it is out of the social norm. So it's a social rule that you just don't do that, right? It's like, you don't do that. You know, or stuff like that, where it's like, those are little social norms. They're bigger ones, like obviously walking forwards and walking, you know, apart from, you know, like walking backwards, or like eating lettuce, like a whole, not just like lettuce leaves, but like the whole fucking lettuce, the ball of lettuce, and just chomping on it, like, you know, or biting a Kit Kat, like just, and without breaking it apart, you know, like that's a little insane though, if I'm being honest. I don't trust anybody who does that. I don't trust you if you do. Like, why are you doing that? That's okay. Interesting. Don't do that in front of me. But love you. Don't do that in front of me. Please. It'll reek me because you're not snapping it, okay? It will. I don't know why. It bugs me. But it doesn't bug me if you do it on chocolate. You know, because that's chocolate, you could, you know, break it apart. Like, that doesn't bug me if you do it on chocolate. It's only Kit Kats. And it's weird because I don't even like Kit Kats. Anyways, moving on. As I was saying, we had to break a social rule, a social norm. And the social norm I chose to break was walking forwards. I was like, all right, I'll do a pretty straightforward one that's going to get a lot of attention because it's normal to walk backwards because, you know, what the fuck are you doing? You know? So, I failed my experiment because my ass did it in theater class. Yeah, no, I failed. No, I'm not saying like I failed the assignment. I still got a good grade on the assignment. I got a pretty good grade. I failed in the sense that instead of breaking a social norm, I made a social norm for like a while. Because they thought it was a warming up exercise, and so certain people started doing it as well, and I was like, okay, well, I just accidentally made a new warm-up. I don't know if they still do it, they probably don't, but for that specific play they did it, and I was like, oh god, fuck, I like created a social norm by accident. God damn it. So yeah, social norms, normal sucks. Be weird. Be weird, my raindrops, be weird. Or queer. Be weird, be queer, be petty. Do crime. No, don't do crime. No, don't do crime. Sham. Put the knife down. No crime. None of you, no crime. Alright, I did not say that. That was a lapse of judgment. I apologize. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, don't do crime, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.